All right, welcome back to Ruffled Feathers, joined, of course, by BJ from the Griddle. This is our second official show. We did one last Thursday, I believe. We're going to try to do one today. I also would if you're down for it, BJ, I'd like to do one Thursday where we can preview the games coming up for the next weekend.
That's
but we're gonna,
excellent.
yeah, I think what we're going to do a little bit here is obviously we're going to talk a little bit about my boys, the Baltimore Ravens. A huge, heartbreaking loss against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think you can sum this game up in one word, right? It's drops. Drops.
Drops. A lot of drops.
Hey, a lot of them. Too many. Well, one's too many. But I'll tell you what, when you have as many drops, and it wasn't even that they were drops, right? BJ, it was the fact that three of them were touchdowns. That's really the difference here. When you come out of a game, you only scored 10 points, and three of the passes you threw that were dropped should have been touchdowns. There's your game right there. That's the whole thing.
I think the tale of two quarterbacks was a lot closer than you may believe, though, when it comes down to stats. There was some drop balls, and three of them could have been touchdowns, but it was pretty bad on both sides. It came down to who wanted it more.
I agree. Well, these games with these two teams are always, it doesn't matter record, right? It doesn't matter record. It doesn't matter talent. I think they showed the stat in the game before the game started in the Mike Tomlin, I guess, because Mike Tomlin was there a year or two before John Harbaugh was. But in the Mike Tomlin era, you look at the points scored by each one of these teams, and it was a difference of 2. That's how close these games have been over the years and years that they play. It's a division rivalry. They don't like each other, and they always find a way to play each other very tight. If one team ever gets a blowout, you expect the next game, the other team's going to get the blowout just to even the score. That's how close these games are. But to your credit, to your point, I agree. Like, if you look at the box score, yes, neither one of these quarterbacks set themselves apart, right? Lamar Jackson and Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett has the touchdown there, which, in my opinion, at the very end, helped the Ravens, at least gave them a chance to score. I appreciate the sub there, Lord Beefy, whoever that is. But yeah, I agree with you. If you look at the stat line, you go, damn, Kenny Pickett had just as mediocre of a day as Lamar Jackson. You're not wrong. The difference being, though, where it says 0 in the touchdown thing, it probably should say 3 for Lamar Jackson. That's the only difference.
It's been a hell of a different game. Different game.
Without a doubt.
And I think I don't know. I want to say he has no right to have any trust in his receiving core for that many drop passes. But also, I think if he'd have threw to them more throughout the season, they'd probably been more prepared for that day.
Well, I'm hearing rumors, and I heard this. I believe it was Rex Ryan was talking about this the other day when it came to the wide receiver coach for the Ravens. And I could have misheard him. Who it was exactly, but he talked about apparently they were using rugby balls to warm up with. Like, that's what they've been training with a lot of times of practice. And Rex Ryan was talking about, well, why would you use that if the ball's bigger? Like, if you're trying to get your hands in a place where it's supposed to be muscle memory, why would you use a ball that's going to make you catch it out here now? So I'm curious to see if that played a factor in the reason why you saw the ball go right through Nelson Aguilar's hands. They're too far apart. Why Flowers all of a sudden, the one he was just too worried about making his cut, but other ones he dropped. Even Mark Andrews, who's as short-handed of a tight end as you can get in the NFL, dropped quite a few himself in that game.
Zay Flowers dropped a hell of a lot of balls. He could have got me a lot of points that week.
I know fantasy owners everywhere wish he still had his solid statistical day when he gave 5 catches, 73 yards, something like that, 70-something yards.
Yeah, 5 catches for 73,
but he could have had a lot more.
Over 100 yards.
Exactly. I agree. And I'll tell you what, the Ravens running back room, of course, we all know J.K. Dobbins goes down. Gus Edwards pounding that rock, but Justice Hill, up until the point where he fumbled that football, he was making a lot of moves. He was doing a lot of good things. He had the touchdown run. He's a guy, if he can get those fumble issues down, he's a guy that fantasy owners might want to look at as if you're in a deeper league, 12-man league to kind of give a shot because he's getting some touches even in the red zone.
Do you know how many times the Ravens fumbled the ball that day?
They probably fumbled about three or four. Three? I'm gonna say three,
Four. Four.
four. Now I know the
Well,
last
no,
one.
you
The
have
last
got to clean
one.
that up.
No, I agree. The last one I distinctly remember. Lamar Jackson drops back to pass. He's mid throwing motion, and left tackle Ronnie Stanley gets absolutely destroyed by Highsmith, and he gets smacked in the back. I don't think there's anything you could have done differently on that one if you're mid throwing motion and the guy smacks you. But yeah, I agree. Justice Hill had a fumble. There was another fumble. They just got to clean things up. If you can't get things cleaned up, great teams will become mediocre teams very quickly.
And I think Lamar Jackson also needs to learn that he can't do this on his own.
Right. No, I agree. He's so used to playing hero ball because he's not used to having people he can throw to that he gets himself in a lot of trouble a lot of times because he tries to do too much. I completely agree with you.
Let's take a look at the next game up for the Baltimore Ravens. Believe you have the Tennessee Titans this week
The Tennessee Titans, yes, in London. That's an early game, I
in
believe.
London.
East Coast is, I think it's a
8
9:30
o'clock.
start.
Should be like 8 o'clock, 8:30.
Well, I think here it's 9:30. I think it's 8:30 your time. I think
Yeah.
it's here. It's yeah. Tennessee Titans. They have not looked great by any stretch of the imagination. I think this might be the year people are right though when it comes to Derrick Henry. Henry hasn't been putting up Henry like numbers, and every year people say it right. This is the year. This is the year he falls off. This is the year the workload is going to be too much. This year so far, it's starting to look like they might be right.
It is looking that way. I still would not count Derrick Henry out when
No, I
his
agree.
passing completion percentage is almost as high as Tannehill's. You got to
Yeah,
look out
that's
for him.
yeah. I mean, we joked about when we played the Bengals. We joked about how he had more touchdown passes than Joe Burrow did, right? But
Yeah.
let's look at some of these scores. Uh, Lost to the Saints in a tight one, 16-15. Beat the Chargers. That's a good team in overtime, 27-24. Then get absolutely demolished by the Browns, 27-3, and then come back against we can all admit, struggling Bengals team, 27-3. And then they lost to the Colts and Gardner Minshew playing for the injured Anthony Richardson, 23-16. And that's the game I think they looked the most themselves. Not necessarily from a statistical standpoint, but just from like how they distributed the ball, right? Derrick Henry still got a solid 13 carries in that game. I think you still want to see him more like the 15 to 20 range if you're a fantasy owner, but solid 13 carries there. DeAndre Hopkins finally get involved in that offense. I think he went off for like almost 150 yards in that game. So the familiarity between him and Tannehill kind of getting there. But I feel like this team's sore spot, unfortunately, is Ryan Tannehill. I think he's a thorn in their side. I really do. I believe that for the last couple of years. The defense, however, I'll say this: their defense. It may not be one of the defenses that people talk about a lot of times as being a premier defense, but it's a solid. It's a solid defense for sure. They get after the quarterback. They stop the run good. They're a solid defense for sure. Now we talk about their opponents, and I think we wanted to touch a little bit on the Colts side, not necessarily from how they're doing, but more so from like a fantasy aspect, right? Like we all
Right.
know Anthony Richardson out.
He is
Gardner
out for at
Minshew,
least 4 weeks.
correct. Gardner Minshew, in my opinion, one of the best backup quarterbacks in the game of football. He's come in and done a phenomenal job for them, and I think they feel comfortable if they have to go to him for these 4 weeks that they'll win, or at least he'll put them in a position to win for these next 4 weeks. I completely agree with that.
At this point, I'm kind of worrying that Anthony Richardson is going to get hurt a lot in his career. Uh, it's, I don't know. Maybe he's just running the ball, trying to run it downhill as a quarterback, and that might be causing the injuries. I didn't really get to watch the game when it happened, but I'm definitely going to have him in my IR slot for the next 4 weeks. So
Yeah,
definitely hold on to him. Do not let go of him because when he is on the field, he can produce a
he's electric.
30
I
point
agree.
game.
He's electric. He's electric. He can do things with his legs as well as his arm. I completely agree, and I'm with you. I think what he's having right now is growing pains. He's having growing pains. He's realizing that yes, I was big and strong in Florida, but in the NFL, everyone's big and strong.
Right.
And that's the difference. Like, you can run over a guy who's probably majoring in pool cleaning in college, but you're not going to run over a professional athlete in the NFL. And he's taken a lot of hits. He's gotten a lot
Unnecessary.
of, yeah. And I think it's one thing he's going to have to, someone's got to teach that boy to slide.
Yep. Teach
Someone's
that
going to
man
teach
how
that
to
boy to slide.
slide at
Just
home.
protect
Slide at
himself.
home.
Yeah, I agree. Then that backfield, of course, which is the huge story on everybody's mind, is Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan
Yep.
Taylor is officially back. We saw him get 6 carries. Uh, Obviously, I think we can all say that's going to increase as he gets more involved and some of the rust gets kicked off. But if you're a fantasy owner and you own Zach Moss, what do you do?
Hold on to him. Do you have Jonathan Taylor? If not, hold on to him.
No,
I don't think they're. I don't think they're going to stray away from Zach Moss just because Jonathan Taylor's back. It
no,
might
no,
turn more into a Jamar Gibbs situation, but
it could,
uh,
yeah.
he's definitely proved himself in the games that Jonathan Taylor was not there.
Yeah, I think if you were lucky enough to be a Jonathan Taylor fantasy owner, you had the hindsight once he had his first good week to try to get him then. If you didn't, I think you let it ride. I think you play both. I think if you have Jonathan Taylor, you play Jonathan Taylor. If you have Zach Moss, you play Zach Moss. If you have them both, I think you kind of play Moss until it shifts permanently. Then you're gonna have. I think if you play Zach Moss until it shifts permanently, you're gonna have 1 week where Zach Moss really lets you down, and then you
Well,
make that switch to Jonathan Taylor.
here's what I would do. If you have both of them, you definitely start Jonathan Taylor and you throw Zach Moss into that flex position. A flex position. And if you think that you might have a better option, you start them over Zach Moss. If you
Okay.
know, or you have somebody on a bye week or anything else, then you throw Zach Moss into that flex position, and I think he will still get points. They're still going to have him rotating in and out. He's going to get thrown the ball. He's going to have rushing attempts. I just don't see why you would get rid of him.
Yeah,
And
I
if you
feel
get
like
I'm going to scoop him up. I'm
you're
going to
gonna
do
pick
this.
him up. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Because I think to your point, 100%, they're not going to just throw him out with the garbage. Yes, they pay Jonathan Taylor a lot of money. Yes, Jonathan Taylor at some point is going to get the majority of the carries, but that doesn't mean Zach Moss is going to be tossed out on his ass and not touch anything. He's still going to get some looks. He's still going to get a solid workload. It's just, if anything, this is good for Taylor. It keeps him fresh. Jonathan Taylor's an explosive running back who can do a lot with a little. Zach Moss can take the rest of that and probably put together some solid fantasy numbers. Who knows? Maybe they even use Zach Moss as a goal line back, whatever they want to do. I don't change anything if I'm a Zach Moss owner just yet. I wait and see. I think you have to do the wait and
Honestly,
see.
this for the next 4 weeks with Anthony Richardson hurt, this is good for Zach Moss owners. Honestly.
Yeah.
Not that I don't wish anybody get hurt, but in the making the best out of a bad situation, hold on to Zach Moss. I know Gardner Minshew, he's a backup, but he can still throw the damn ball.
He's a backup,
But
but
hold on to
he's
Zach
been a
Moss.
starter. Zach Gardner Minshew has been a starter, and I'll tell you what, he was a starter for one of the worst teams he could have been, the Jacksonville Jaguars. And anybody who really watched him play, you watched it and you said, "Damn, this kid's actually not half bad." And then of course
Right.
he gets traded to Philadelphia, backs up Jalen Hurts, which obviously you learn things backing up a guy who's as good as Jalen Hurts. Now you're in Indianapolis and your number's called. This is his chance. He sees it as, hey, I'm the starter for this team right now, but if I play well enough, maybe I get an opportunity to go on another team next year and be the starter for that team for a few years. All right,
Well,
we're gonna
time will tell.
yep, time will tell. I agree. We're gonna pivot here to talk about the Sunday night game. The
The
Sunday night game.
49ers and the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah,
Boy, that was a lopsided fucking game.
it was 100%. Like it didn't start out that way, right? First quarter, thinking, all right, 7-0, not 7-0. Cowboys still in it, and then all of a sudden, let me ask you this, Beefy. What
How much
else?
how much money did I lose on Dak Prescott?
How
I'll
much
go ahead
money
and
did
tell
you
you.
lose? Yeah.
I lost about $50 putting money on Dak
Woo!
Prescott, and that'll be the last fucking time that I ever put money on Dak Prescott.
He
I
said,
will always go with Brock Purdy. I put some faith in him, and it was absolutely wrong. The motherfucker can't throw it past 10 yards, and they try to cover up. Jerry Jones, you're a son of a bitch. You need to let go of the team. You got to stop being so involved. You need to get rid of Dak Prescott. I know you've got him for at least the next year or two because of contract, and he has a no trade clause. But this is ridiculous. If you want the Dallas Cowboys to win a Super Bowl, you need to get rid of Dak Prescott. You need to pick somebody up, anybody else up. The man is just washed. He's giving damn Cam Newton vibes.
Like
He's giving
post Super
RG3
Bowl,
vibes.
post Super Bowl Cam Newton
Yeah,
vibes, right? Like after he didn't
yeah,
die for that
no,
fumble.
yeah,
I agree.
yeah,
I
yeah.
completely agree. Completely agree. But here's my second part of that question: what else does Brock Purdy have to do to not be considered a quote unquote system quarterback?
Get
What
paid
does he have
more
to
than
do?
940.
He needs to not have a roommate, and he needs to move out on his own. Is that what we're saying? I mean,
Jerry
like 4
Jones.
touchdown passes.
Jerry Jones,
Passes.
imagine your $60 million quarterback getting beat by a sub $1 million quarterback.
Mr. Irrelevant. Last
Mr.
pick
Yeah,
of the
Mr.
draft.
Irrelevant.
Three
Last pick.
interceptions. 3 interceptions by Dak Prescott. And I'll tell you what, on 2 of them, I didn't know where the hell he was trying to go with the ball. The Niners, and I think me and you discussed this a little bit in private, the 49ers have figured out the relevance of the formula for success, right? It's run the ball. Brock Purdy does exactly what he does, and I think he's at his best when he gets George Kittle involved, and that defense just wreaks havoc.
I
It's a
actually
winning
had one
formula.
of my buddies who benched George Kittle because he hasn't been producing. And
No,
after that game, he was like, "Fuck you, George Kittle," and I was like, "You're
he'll
the
never do
idiot
it
who
again,
put
right?
it on a bench. Why would you bench George Kittle
No, I agree. He's
ever
one of those. He's one of those guys.
in a rivalry game?"
Yeah, he's just one of those guys that even if he's starting to suck, he has the upside. So you have to start him. Even when he
Let me
starts
tell
to
you.
not produce, he has the upside. You have to start
Let
him.
me tell you now, if George Kittle had the balls to show his undershirt on national television on Sunday night that said "fuck Dallas,"
Dude, that was amazing.
I'm never benching him again in
Yeah,
fantasy.
dude, that is the personification of big dick energy, right?
Big
we
dick
always
energy.
we joke, big cock Brock, right? We joke about that, but I'll tell you what, Kittle's got some set of brass ones on him. I mean, the only thing that would have made that better is if they were in Dallas. That's the only thing that would have made that better is if they were in Dallas when he did it. And when his shirt said "fuck the Cowboys," and I'll tell you what, the Niners, fuck the Cowboys. They stand, in my opinion, as the only team in the NFC, that can hold a candle to the Philadelphia Eagles. I think we're getting a rematch. Unless something drastic happens between, and it's a long season, we got plenty of weeks to go. Unless something drastic happens, I think we're going to see that rematch of the Philadelphia Eagles playing against the San Francisco
Not
49ers.
so fast, my friend.
Oh, okay. We got a dark
Not
horse entering
so
the picture.
fast.
Don't say the Cowboys. You say the Cowboys, I'm kicking you off.
No. I think there's a couple of contenders, if not 3, dark horses.
Okay, give me one. Give me one by one.
In the NFC. Hold on. Give me a
NFC,
sec.
buddy.
I'm looking over my notes. NFC.
Sound it out.
I think Baker Mayfield has found a home in Tampa Bay.
Okay.
They
All right.
are 3-1.
True.
They're looking solid, and I don't think you count them out of this yet.
I guess people for just to touch on that one, I think I understand exactly what you're saying, right? Because I agree. Baker Mayfield has played like the Baker Mayfield that Cleveland thought they were getting, right? He has played that well. He's played very good. I guess people were just kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop when it comes to him. Good defense, great receiving core. It comes down to Baker. So I agree with you. He's playing well, but it comes down to how well he plays is going to be how far that team
second
goes.
dark horse.
Okay, number 2.
The Detroit fucking Lions.
Okay,
Playing
I like
phenomenal.
it.
Phenomenal football right now.
That's true. They are. They have a solid running game, and I don't even think, and I know you probably agree with this as well. They haven't even tapped the potential of that backfield, right?
No.
We've just been mainly getting David Montgomery, but Jahmyr Gibbs is a phenomenal talent that he just
he was out
get.
this weekend.
Yeah, I know. He just needs to get his feet wet a little bit more. He needs to get a little bit more involved in the offense. And I think once that happens, that backfield's going to explode even more. And Jared Goff is one of those quarterbacks that I've always said is amazing quarterback with play action. So the better that backfield is, the better Jared Goff will do. And I agree with you. It's a solid defense, solid coaching staff. I don't know if they match up as well as San Francisco and the Eagles, but it's a good team. They should be in it. They'll be in the show. And then tell you what, when you get into the show, anything can happen.
Anything, any given Sunday.
Any given Sunday.
Who do you have coming from the AFC?
AFC, I think it's a more tightly contested race, right? Like I think after after Kansas City, I think you go Kansas City. I think then you go Buffalo, but after those two, I think there's a lot of teams that are very close, right? You got the Ravens. You have you even have the Jets, who, if Zach Wilson could continue to put games together and that defense stays solid, don't count them out of it. They could be in the show, especially as much as like New England has degressed. They've done in my opinion, a horrible job of putting Mac Jones in positions to win. That team just needs more. The Texans were supposed to be one of the worst teams in football this year. And I'll tell you what, CJ Stroud looks like he could be not only one of the best rookies to come out of college this draft class, he could be one of the best quarterbacks in the AFC, period. Jacksonville's struggled. I think the AFC South is going to be the one division where it's close. Yeah, it's going to be a very close race. Pay attention
to that because Tank Dell, is out for the next at least 2 weeks. He's under concussion protocol with the NFL right now. So I think all CJ Stroud has now is Nico Collins. So we're gonna have to pay attention to that and see how things turn out for the next couple weeks, and see how they play with him having less targets on the field that he can hit.
Right. I think that they're a team that if they can stay healthy, they've got.
Do you have any dark horses?
My dark horse, I'll tell you what. I think here's what I'm afraid of. I wouldn't say it's a dark horse because of who the team is, but here's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of teams not putting the Cincinnati Bengals away. And if they don't put them away and Joe Burrow gets healthy, that is a team that has a lot of weapons. A lot of weapons. Like I said, if they don't put that team away and they let them hang around and Joe Burrow gets healthy, God only knows what could happen. That's where I'm at with it. Yeah, I think the Cincinnati Bengals are a team you cannot count out. You cannot count out. I think a lot of the teams that are winning the division outside of the Texans, you kind of expected to be the leading division outside the Texans and the Jets. So it's tough. It's tough. The Jets could be one, but like I said, I think Zach Wilson's progressing. He's just not there yet for me.
How do you feel about the Miami Dolphins?
Miami Dolphins. Well, I think you saw Achan's out for 4 weeks. He had a knee injury,
but they still have.
I'll tell you what. Here's what I don't like. It feels like every decade, right? There's this team that has all this talent, and for whatever reason, teams keep trading players to that team. Like the Miami Dolphins didn't need Chase Claypool. Why in the hell would the Bears send them there of all places? It's like, dude, Don't you understand that this team is already a powerhouse? I think they have phenomenal speed. I think they have phenomenal weapons. I like their coach. My question is going to be, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree. I think they're better with Mike White at quarterback than they are with Tua. I'm not a Tua guy. I don't like certain aspects of his game. I don't think he has the arm power, in my opinion, to fully take advantage of this, as well as I think he can be easily rattled. That offensive line is not the greatest. That's the only sour spot on the entire offensive side of the football is that offensive line. And if they play a really good team that can get after the quarterback, Tua has been known to be a little fragile. And that's my concern with them. But I agree, they're a team that should be there at the end. That division's another division. Patriots are the worst team in that division, by far. By far.
Patriots are, for sure.
Yeah.
I know they're going to be looking at Belichick kind of sideways by the end of this season.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that's like, how dare you, right? After all he's accomplished. But if you look at what he's done post Brady, it's rough. It's rough.
What did he do?
I mean, they went to the playoffs once with Mac Jones. Well, he won a bunch of Super Bowls with Brady.
Yeah, Brady.
Yeah, that's
other than Tom Brady and Gronkowski, Richard Seymour, and I think there's one other one. Hall of
Rodney
Famer
Harrison.
status. Rodney Harrison. Who other than that has he brought into that organization? No, Tom Brady can just shine enough that he can brighten everybody else up on the field.
Tom Brady's able to make chicken salad out of chicken shit, right? Other than the years that he had Gronkowski or the years that they went undefeated with Randy Moss and all those guys, you look at, especially early on when they were winning in his tenure in New England, the wide receivers you probably don't know half of. You had guys like Deion Branch and shit catching passes from Tom Brady winning Super Bowls. He's a guy who was, like you said, was able to make a lot out of nothing. Now that your scheme relies on a quarterback to make chicken salad out of chicken shit, Mac Jones isn't that guy. You have to change your way of thinking. And I think Bill Belichick's had so much success set in his ways that he's not going to change.
Right.
So if he's not going to change, you got to move on.
And I just want to point out, Tom Brady never won a Super Bowl with Randy Moss.
True.
They brought him in for a 1-year contract and they lost to the Giants.
They did. That's true. All right.
All right.
So I think we're going to talk about that absolute snooze fest of a Monday Night Football game.
The Green Bay Packers and the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah. I think this comes down to two mediocre quarterbacks. That's really what this game came down to, in my opinion.
It really, I know I said it a lot yesterday, and I've said it a lot so far in the stream.
No, I know exactly what you're going to say, but I think you're right. Go ahead and say it again, because I think you're right.
It's just, you've got to be able to trust your wide receivers enough to throw the ball further than 10 yards.
Yeah, we were watching the game, right? And they showed the stat on the board, which it got even worse because he threw another one. But it was like Jordan Love on passes 10 yards plus, 2 for 6 with 2 interceptions, which he ended up sprinkling a third in there when he tried that deep ball at the end. Because we were watching it, even we said at some point he's going to have to try it. And can he do it? And guess what? He fucking couldn't. And you're right. You're right. You've said it a couple times on the stream. It seems like we have this group of quarterbacks right now that are afraid of throwing the ball deep.
And I'll just name them off. Jimmy Garoppolo, Jordan Love, Sam Howell.
Yeah.
Those are just the ones off the top of my head. I'm sure if you give me next week, I can give you a whole brand new list of quarterbacks who are afraid to throw it past 10 yards.
Dak Prescott this week.
Yeah, Dak Prescott. Where are the gunslingers? They're hurt. They tore their Achilles tendon. That's where they're at.
Yeah. No, right. I mean, they don't make them like Aaron Rodgers anymore. I think
Josh Allen, gunslinger.
I think what it is quarterbacks are so like worried about throwing interceptions that they just want to throw short passes. Like they're so worried about the stigmatism, the stereotype that comes with a guy who throws a bunch of interceptions.
I agree wholeheartedly. But Jordan Love threw 2 interceptions to the same guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's his name? That linebacker.
Robert Spillane.
Spillane, the man who put the fucking hit on Derrick Henry and knocked them both out.
Yeah, it was fun. I'll tell you what.
When he was playing for the Steelers.
The Raiders only won this game because they finally figured out, hey, we've got Davante Adams on our team. Why don't we throw to him? I mean, he had one target heading into the fourth quarter. And I'll tell you what, it was really only one drive, Beef. One drive.
I'm willing to bet that Davante Adams had the same conversation Jamar Chase had with his quarterback. I'm open. Throw me the ball. I'm always open. Yeah. Even if I'm covered up by 2 people, throw me the ball.
That's the
Why
thing.
Why did I come down here?
Exactly. That's the thing. When you have a guy who is a bona fide number 1 receiver, a bona fide guy, we're talking Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, Davante Adams, DeAndre Hopkins in his prime, those guys. Justin Jefferson. It doesn't matter if it looks like they're covered. There's certain at times you need to just throw the ball and give your guy. You got to throw the ball and give the guy an opportunity to make a big play for you. You have got to do that. That's what these teams got to realize. Davante Adams, I don't care if he's got a guy on a one-on-one. Give him a shot. You have times you need to give him a shot. Yeah.
He's one-on-one, he's open.
Tall son of a bitch. Jamar Chase, same thing. Oh, the guys are right neck and neck. I guarantee you throw that ball deep to him, Joe, and guess what? All of a sudden he breaks into another gear and he goes even farther away from him. The boy, it seems like the only one who seems to figure that out is Miami. Is that even when Tyreek Hill is covered, he's not really that covered. And I think that's what these teams, even when they have mediocre quarterbacks, like a Jordan Love, like a Jimmy Garoppolo, take some shots. Take some shots. And
Shots.
that's honestly, that's
I,
what it's. I think that was the thing that Jimmy
same goes for
Garoppolo,
Sam Howell. You have Scary
Scary
Terry
Terry,
McLaurin, and he only gets targeted 5 times. You lost that game because you did not throw it to him. He's your
you
best
have
wide
sold.
receiver.
To quote a former wide receiver for the Baltimore Ravens who got frustrated because he wasn't getting the ball, you have soldiers, use them. That's simple. I completely agree with you. Um, Now, fantasy football, we all know, huge aspect of anyone who really follows the NFL as passionately as most fans do. Few key injuries. We talked a little bit about the Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor, uh, but if you're a Justin Jefferson owner right now, Beef, where are you going? Where are you trying to find production?
Justin Jefferson. Nothing's confirmed yet, but with the kind of sprain he has in his hamstring, they're talking about him being out for the next 4 weeks. I would definitely be looking at Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison's a rookie. He's, I think, their number 2 or number 3 wide receiver. He's definitely to be getting more targets now that Justin Jefferson's going to be out for the next month. I would also be looking at KJ Osborne. He doesn't get targeted a whole lot, but he's going to get targeted a lot more. He got targeted a lot during the Chiefs game as well. So I would definitely keep my eye out for those two. If Jordan Addison's already taken, I can guarantee you KJ Osborne is not. I would definitely be looking in that area. On brighter side, Saquon Barkley should be back this week
We can only
from his
hope.
high ankle sprain. It's been
As a
3 weeks.
I'll tell you what, I'm in two dynasty leagues, right? Which for those of you that don't know what dynasty leagues are, it's where you draft guys. It's a bigger roster, but you keep those guys every year until you either trade them or release them, and all you do is draft rookies to come in, right? One league I have Saquon Barkley, who it's been an absolute nightmare trying to manage a team around him, and I also have Javonte Williams on that same team, who has been hurt. He's apparently supposed to he practiced full pads today, but I'll tell you what, if you are a team that's looking for a running back, his backup, rookie, Jaleel McLaughlin, has burst onto the scenes in a team that, let's be honest, hasn't been very good. If you have a running back who is producing on a team that really hasn't been that good of a team, like the Denver Broncos really haven't, uh, you can only imagine what he'd be able to produce in those tight games, right? Last 2 weeks, I'm gonna read some numbers here. He's had 72 rushing yards on only 7 carries. That was 2 weeks ago, as well as 32 receiving yards on 3 receptions and a receiving touchdown. So he's a guy that they trust running and catching the ball, which is a big thing in fantasy. And then last week, when he finally got an actual, I guess you could say, more of a workload, because P. Ryan's also there for those of you who know, the former Bengals running back, but he's not a guy who's going to catch a bunch of balls out of the backfield, nothing like that. He got 9 carries last week, or I guess this past Sunday, and he had 68 yards, as well as another 3 receptions for 21 and a touchdown. So he's a guy that they trust right now in the passing game. He's doing a lot with a little. If you can break out 70 yards, 60 yards with 8 or 9 carries, that's production. That means I don't have to give you a bunch. You'll get your touches and you're doing a good job of putting output for the rest of them. So if you're a team that's kind of, deeper league, you're looking for a running back, maybe you have Javonte Williams, you don't have P. Ryan, McLaughlin is an asset, in my opinion, to you.
That is a that is excellent. That is
Yeah,
an excellent pick.
I really like him. I picked him in our rookie draft. It was one of my last rounds, and I was like, you know what? I have Javonte Williams. The worst feeling in the world is when a player you have gets hurt and you don't have the backup. I try to make a point that if I have the starter, even if it's a wasted bench spot and the guy never gets hurt, I'd rather have the backup and then try to go get the backup after he gets hurt. You know what I mean? That's the mindset I try to have with it.
Um, and I'll say it again for everybody in the back. If you're looking for a good wide receiver, do not pick up anybody from the Chiefs because the only motherfucker that Patrick Mahomes is throwing to is Travis Kelsey. And
Yeah,
if you missed out on that, just too late.
the Chiefs are rough. I'll tell you what. Here's the thing. The Chiefs. It's Travis Kelsey, but it's also like guys who have Isaiah Pacheco. He's been solid. But I know because I know you're a Pacheco owner. You know what I
It's
mean?
eating
But
them yards, eating them
when
yards.
they get down into the red zone and you see, I just want to know, how do you feel when they get down to the red zone? You're watching the game and you see that fucking Jarek McKinnon coming, just a
Oh,
vulture, a
dude,
touchdown from him. How upset do you get
it
when
makes
you're
my balls itch.
dude,
It
it's
makes my
rough.
balls itch.
It's rough. It's like,
Isaiah
dude,
Pacheco led the charge all the way down there, and you're going to let Jeremy McKinnon just vulture his fucking touchdown. That
it's so
is
frustrating.
ridiculous.
It's so frustrating when you have a guy, especially it happens all the time running back. I feel like this happens more running back than any other position. You have a guy that'll get you all the way down into the red zone just to have some fat fuck come into the game to punch it in and steal away all those points that you should have had. I agree. It's exhausting. Ugh,
It
it's
is.
rough.
But for anybody who's also concerned about the short arm of Sam Howell, the midget, um, I would definitely be looking at Curtis Samuel to make it a trade or waiver because Curtis Samuel has been getting targeted by Sam Howell because he doesn't run very deep routes.
Yeah, he's been a
That's
check
what
down for him.
Terry McLaurin is, deep route runner. He is what on Madden? He's like a end
Who's an
zone
X
archetype
Factor?
or something. Like that.
He's an absolute beast. But I agree with you. Sam Howell's definitely gone. I think part of it's their offensive line, but he's definitely liked Curtis Samuel in those short yardage routes a lot more than he's gone to Scary Terry.
In the
Uh,
past 2 weeks, he's averaged almost 19 points a game. So if you need somebody who can
that's
produce at least that much, I'd be looking at Curtis Samuel to pick him up.
yeah. And I'll be honest, if you have Scary Terry, put him out there. See what kind of offers you get because you'd be surprised how much people give up for a name. Like I said, he hasn't produced for me. I have him on my fantasy team. He hasn't produced for me really at all. He had one good game, right, where he really produced as you expect him to. I just threw him out there in the trade block. I had 4 or 5 people hit me up asking what I want for him. I didn't take an offer, but there's nothing wrong with fielding some. Just see what his
Yeah.
value is. You know what I mean? And I think you
Um,
can't go wrong with that.
right before we head out for the evening, let's talk about our Thursday night game. Since we
Ooh,
won't be back on till Thursday, I think we should go ahead and touch on
okay,
Thursday
all
night
right.
football with the Commanders and the Bears.
Oof.
What are
I'll
we
tell you
feeling? Do
what.
we think we're going to see a repeat performance from Justin Fields and DJ Moore?
Hold on one
Are they going to be
second.
able to light it up?
Hold on one second there, Beef. It's not. It's not the Commanders and the Bears.
Oh,
It's
that was
actually
last week.
that was last week
My
where the
bad, bro.
Bears did light it up. It's Denver of all fucking
My
people.
bad.
Can we just talk? Like I felt like this happened last year too. Denver gets too many primetime games. They're too shit of a team to get this many
Jacksonville
primetime
and the
games.
Saints. That's it this
No,
week.
no. Thursday is
Oh,
Denver at Kansas City. Denver at Chiefs. And unless the Chiefs play the game of their fucking lives on the 12th, yeah. Denver at Kansas City. Unless Denver
okay.
somehow decides to learn how to play football, I don't see this
Oh,
being close.
okay. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. The Saints and Jacksonville are next week. That's next week, the 19th.
Imagine this, dude. I tried to find out who the Thursday night football game was, and Google gave me Thursday night for last
So,
year.
that's how bad Thursday night been this year.
It's,
But
I mean,
yeah.
it's going to be bad again for the Broncos. I don't see them being able to stop the Chief train.
It's one thing to have a bad defense, right? Because I understand they didn't invest as much money into the defensive side of the ball. When you have $100 million guaranteed wrapped up in Sean Payton as a coach, and you have $200 million guaranteed wrapped up in Russell Wilson as a quarterback, you should be doing a lot better offensively. I don't want to hear excuses offensively, especially when you have guys who have stepped up for injured players, like we were just talking about McLaughlin. Hey, Javonte Williams goes down. McLaughlin and P. Ryan have held it down just as well as if you had Williams in there. You got
So,
to figure it out.
who's your pick
Oh, it's
for
Kansas
Thursday
City.
night?
Kansas City's the
Kansas
pick.
City. You
When
know
we
what?
when we
I'm
come
gonna
back
go on the
Thursday,
opposite.
you're
I'm
gonna go
going
Denver.
opposite.
The upset.
I think the Chiefs have not been playing well at all. They have not
Okay.
been playing to their Super Bowl standard. They struggled against the Jets. They struggled against the Vikings, and the Vikings have also been not very good this year. So you know what? I think Broncos can pull out an upset.
Uh,
I think they're going to
okay.
need something. It's not going to be because of Sean Payton. It's going to be because something crazy happened. I think.
As the quote the Pittsburgh Steelers kicker. Hope you do not because of you,
Yeah,
not
it's not
because of
because of
you,
you. I can
not
guarantee
because of
you
you.
that.
Yeah, I guarantee you that. But
Fire Canada.
I would love to see an upset. Just because as a team that's expected, as a fan of a team that's expected to be in the playoffs, any loss Kansas City gets is a win for me, right? Because you get closer to that number one seed. Kansas City, it seems like year after year they sit there with it. Um, But to your point, you're right. They have not looked as Kansas City esque as they normally do. I think they've last year they didn't really miss a beat without Tyreek Hill. They had other guys step up, but it's starting to show at the wide receiver position. They don't really have the weapons that they
The
once
only
had.
dominant games they've had, and I'm pretty sure one was a preseason game, was the Chiefs and Cardinals. They beat them 38-10, so you don't count that.
No,
The
you
next
definitely don't count.
one that they blew out was the Chicago Bears. If you look back at the scores, the Chiefs barely edged out the Vikings 27-20, barely edged out the Jets 23-20,
Gotta beat the
barely
Jags.
edged out the Jaguars 17-19.
You're right. I'll tell you what. You're
And
exactly right.
they lost to the Lions by 1 point.
And I didn't watch the Vikings and I didn't watch the Jags game, but we both watched it together. Um, that's why Matt Canada got fired from LSU because he is ass killer. But we did watch the Jets game, and they should have won. The Jets should
They
have won
should
that
have.
game. They got screwed out of the game. We talked about it last Thursday. So really, they're 4-0, but they probably should be more like 3-1, maybe right here at 3-2 with the rest of us, if we're being honest. So you got a point. If the Denver Broncos can find a way to just play a little bit better than they have been defensively, they got a real chance.
If
You're
they
not
can
wrong.
beat the NFL script and the refs, they can win.
The referees, I'll tell you what, I was worried about that game last night, even though it was a snooze fest. That it was looking like you could tell teams were trying to get flags. They were trying to bait or fish for pass interference calls and things of that nature. Even that interception that Jordan Love threw at the end where Robinson picks him off, they're like, oh, it wasn't a penalty? No, it was an amazing play by a young cornerback. It was a
Could we?
phenomenal
Could
play.
we? I want to hear a rant from you real quick about the Watson catch that was a horse tackle, horse collar.
Oh, Marcus Peters. Okay, here's my issue with what happened. For those you don't know, was it Watson that caught the ball?
Yeah, it
Is that
was
who it
Watson.
was? He catches the ball. He's weaving it down. He's got the corner beat. He's about to go into the end zone, and Marcus Peters pulls him down. Obvious horse collar penalty, right? My problem with that is it's a 15-yard penalty because he's so close to the end zone. Instead of giving him the touchdown on what was a personal foul, which should be the difference here is that it's a personal foul. They mark it, half the distance to the goal, 1st and goal. Raiders stand up strong on the defensive side, force them to kick a field goal. I'm sorry. If the player is within 15 yards and it's a personal foul, it should be counted as a touchdown. I don't care. It's something that should never happen. Basically, what you just did there is you incentivize someone to do an action that could have severely hurt another player, and you rewarded his team by doing it because they had to go out there and they still had a chance to stop a touchdown that should have already happened. I think that's something they definitely have to look at and they definitely have to change. A personal foul should be, if it's a 15-yard penalty, it should be a 15-yard penalty. It should be no difference than if a team's backed up in their own end zone, right? And the
Yeah.
quarterback drops back to pass and the offensive lineman gets called for holding in the end zone, it's a safety. It's a safety. It should be no difference here. If the gentleman's going to go into the end zone and you commit a personal foul like that, unsportsmanlike conduct, something of that nature, and it's a 15-yard penalty, he's within 15 yards, touchdown. I'm sorry, that
Well,
100% should be a
I
touchdown.
mean, it happened within 5 yards of the goal line, didn't it?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it
Oh yeah.
happened within
Yeah.
five.
Because they were first and goal
Even
from the
if it
5.
wasn't, I wouldn't. I don't agree with the whole 15. Even if it's 15 yards out, that
I mean,
that's
just
tough.
on personal fouls. I mean, just on personal
Within
fouls. But yeah.
within 5 yards of the goal line.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, dude, that's fucking touchdown. He was gonna score a touchdown, and you had to cheat,
Right.
fucking get
You
him
had
to
to do
not
something
score.
that, and like I said, honestly, it's not that it was just a penalty. It's the fact that it's a penalty that really someone can really get hurt doing that shit. I mean, like like people have got really hurt from horse collar tackles. That's why they changed the rule to where you don't even have to grab them up under the shoulder pads anymore. It's just if you grab them up by the name and pull them down. That's the most dangerous tackle in all the NFL is the horse collar tackle. They should have
Agreed.
awarded him a touchdown, and all they did was reward. They actually ended up in the end rewarding the Las Vegas Raiders for committing the penalty, and I think that's ridiculous. It's something they definitely need to look at. They definitely need to change.
Agreed. Agreed. They need to change that. They need to look at it. And that goes for, well, I don't know about pass interference, but definitely if a horse collar
Now,
occurs within 5 yards of the end zone, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, for me, it's like I said, it's not every penalty. I think it's just for things like unsportsmanlike conduct, things that have no business. Pass interference is part of the game. It gets called all the time. Ball goes up in the air. It's not a dangerous situation. Horse collar tackle is a dangerous situation. If someone had fucking hit somebody late, like the play was over, and someone comes in and smacks the shit out of somebody like a cheap shot, that's unsportsmanlike conduct. That's something completely different. Unnecessary roughness, those type of things are the kind of plays I'm talking about. That they got to really think when they get around that goal line area, is it really a penalty? Like, for example, if I'm at the 5 yard line, beef, and I commit like a huge, like I fucking just beat the shit out of somebody with a helmet, like Jason Garrett did. Miles Garrett did on Mason Rudolph a couple years ago. It's a 15 yard penalty, but because we're so close, it's only half the distance to the goal. So I got to beat the shit out of somebody for 2.5 yards. That's all my team had to give up. That's ridiculous. I'm sorry. That has to be.
It is.
There's
I
something they
agree.
need to look at and change.
I think that
Anything
also goes along with the face mask. I think face masks, because if he would have face masked him and grabbed him with his face mask to try and bring him down like that, I think that could also be
I
something they
think
need to look at.
one of the worst things the NFL did is when they changed the two different face mask calls to one. There used to be two. First was just grabbing it, 5 yard penalty. Second one was if you grabbed it and turned it, it was 15. And I think they need to. I would be more comfortable if they went back to that because I think the grabbing and the turning is what the issue is. Not necessarily someone's hand brushing against the face mask could completely destroy a drive, it could completely help a drive. I think it was a way better system when it was if it was a grab and turn, it's 15. If it was just a grab and he lets go real quick, it's just a 5. I think that was a way better system. I think they kind of got lazy with it. And I think it's not a good system they have in place right now.
Totally agree. I think they should bring back those two separate ones. But if it happens within 5 yards, I think because I mean that dude was hauling
Yeah.
ass. If you'd have
Yeah.
grabbed him by the face mask, he could have snapped his fucking neck in half.
I agree.
So
I would have the same reaction, 100%. Well, I think that's going to do it for us tonight. I
yep,
appreciate everybody stopping by. We'll be back again Thursday night. That's still good with you, Beef.
yes, good.
Thursday night is going to be. We'll be back again here. We'll probably be around the same time, between 7, 8 o'clock is when we're going to start. Until next time, you guys try not to ruffle any feathers. BJ, say goodbye.
Have a beautiful night. I don't have a catchy good night other than that. I'm gonna work on it. I love you guys.
If you have any suggestions, DM them. DM them. If you got any suggestions, send it to them.